The oil change industry is sitting on a $9 billion lie, not a small distortion, not an innocent, outdated tip, a financially motivated, systematically repeated lie that is quietly destroying engines and draining wallets across the country. Here is the thing. Most mechanics repeating this advice are not even aware they are doing it. They learned their trade in a different era, and the service industry never gave them a reason to update their script. What dealerships and service centers will not tell you is that switching their customer base to quality synthetic oil would cut their annual oil change revenue by 68% per customer. So instead, they repeat myths. 6 specific myths. And today, we are killing every single one of them with lab data, tear-down evidence, and one very honest former service manager who decided the truth mattered more than his commission. Smart drivers are already stretching oil changes to 10,000 miles on synthetic without a single engine issue. The ones still listening to outdated advice are replacing engines at 150,000 miles instead of 300,000. Stick around until the end, because the final myth we are exposing is the one your mechanic repeats most confidently, and it is the one costing you the most money. Myth number 1: synthetic oil causes leaks in older engines. This is the most persistent myth in automotive service, and it has been running on fumes for 20 years. Here is the thing. This myth was born from a half-truth in the 1980s, when early synthetic formulations used ester-based chemistries that interacted differently with aged rubber seals. When drivers with high-mileage engines switched to synthetic, some experienced leaks. But here is what was actually happening. Synthetic's superior detergency was dissolving the sludge buildup that had been physically plugging worn seals for years. The synthetic did not create the leaks, it revealed pre-existing seal degradation that conventional oil's gunk had been masking. And get this, a controlled fleet study tracked 19 vans on conventional oil against 18 vans on synthetic. The conventional fleet recorded 23 seal failures, racking up $18,400 in repairs. The synthetic fleet, 6 failures, $4,900. That is 73% fewer failures on the oil that is supposedly destroying seals. Southwest Research Institute testing confirmed it further. Natural rubber seals in synthetic oil swelled only 5.1% versus 6.3% in conventional. Translation: synthetic is actually less aggressive on seals than the oil mechanics are steering you toward. A former Quick Lube regional manager put it plainly. Training explicitly instructed advisors to discourage synthetic by mentioning leak risks, and none of it was scientifically accurate. Modern Group 4 polyalpha olefin synthetics contain enhanced seal conditioners that restore elasticity in aged seals. Brands like Valvoline MaxLife, Mobil 1 High Mileage, and Pennzoil High Mileage include these compounds as standard. Bottom line, blaming synthetic oil for a leak is like blaming the smoke detector for starting the fire. The problem was already there. Synthetic was just honest enough to show it to you. But if the leak myth makes your mechanic sound cautious, the next one makes him sound like a salesman, because that is exactly what he is. Myth number 2. You can never switch back to conventional oil. Zero scientific basis. That is not an exaggeration. That is the complete verdict from every credible source in the industry. Here is the thing. The American Petroleum Institute explicitly states there are no compatibility issues between synthetic and conventional oils of the same viscosity grade. Not limited compatibility, not use caution. No compatibility issues. Synthetic blend oils, sold in virtually every auto parts store in the country, are literally a pre-mixed combination of both types in the same bottle. If synthetic and conventional were chemically hostile to each other, blended oils could not exist. But they do, by the billions of quarts. The real kicker is where this myth came from. It was engineered alongside the premium synthetic market boom of the early 2000s to create psychological switching costs. Quick lube chains charge nearly double for synthetic changes. If a service advisor convinces you that switching back will damage your engine, they have locked in a permanent high-margin customer based entirely on fear. European automakers including BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen factory fill with synthetic but openly acknowledge in their service documentation that conventional oil is acceptable in emergencies at the correct viscosity grade. These are the engineers who designed the engines. They are not worried about compatibility. Your engine runs on viscosity grade, additive package, and film strength. It does not have brand loyalty. The only dangerous switch is changing viscosity grades without consulting your owner's manual. Oil type is irrelevant to compatibility, so now you know you can switch freely. But here is the more dangerous problem. Most people cannot even tell if they are buying real synthetic in the first place. Myth number 3. All synthetic oils are the same. If you are paying full synthetic prices and assuming you are getting full synthetic protection, you need to hear this one carefully. The term full synthetic is not legally regulated in the United States. That is a direct result of the Castrol versus Mobil 1 lawsuit of the 1990s, which established a legal gray zone that has never been closed. Any significantly refined petroleum product can be marketed as full synthetic, even if it is made from Group 3 base stock, which is chemically very close to conventional petroleum. Oil, refined from crude rather than engineered from scratch. And get this, a significant portion of the bottles labeled full synthetic at your local parts store are exactly that. True synthetic oils use Group 4 polyalpha olefin or Group 5 base stocks, engineered molecules built from scratch in a laboratory. The oxidation resistance difference is measurable at up to 50% better under identical testing conditions. But here is where it gets truly expensive. Budget synthetics cut costs through inferior additive packages, specifically ZDDP, zinc dialkyl-dithiophosphate, the primary anti-wear compound that forms a protective barrier on metal surfaces under extreme pressure. Skimping on ZDDP is where cheap oils create their margin. You are paying synthetic prices for an additive package that cannot deliver synthetic protection. Translation: not all synthetics are created equal, and the label will not tell you which kind you are buying. Look for API certification. Match viscosity grade exactly to your owner's manual. Saving $10 per oil change on a budget synthetic can cost thousands in accelerated wear across 100,000 miles. Calling Group 3 oil full synthetic is like calling a stock photo a fine art print. Technically legal, completely misleading. And the person paying for it is always you. If this is the kind of truth you want every week, hit subscribe and the notification bell right now. Because what we are about to show you about older engines is the most targeted lie on this entire list. Myth number 4, older engines cannot handle synthetic oil. The most financially targeted myth on this list. High-mileage vehicles represent the largest segment of the driving population. Keeping those owners on conventional oil and short change intervals is worth billions annually to the quick lube industry. Here is the thing. Up to 80% of engine wear occurs during cold starts, when oil pressure is lowest and metal surfaces are running dry for the first critical seconds. Synthetic oil flows at -40 degrees Fahrenheit, coating critical components within 1 second of startup. Conventional oil takes 5 to 10 seconds to fully circulate. That is 5 to 9 seconds of metal-on-metal contact, repeated every single time you start your car. And get this, a controlled 50,000-mile teardown told the whole story. The synthetic oil engine retained compression between 188 and 192 psi at the end of the test. The conventional oil engine, run under identical conditions, dropped to between 182 and 188 psi. A measurable difference in ring and cylinder wall wear. Iron wear metal content confirmed it further. The conventional engine averaged 9 parts per million of iron particles suspended in the oil across 10 samples. The synthetic engine's readings were significantly lower. Visually, the synthetic engine looked like 70,000 to 80,000 miles of wear. The conventional engine looked like 150,000 under the exact same conditions. The real kicker is how outdated this myth actually is. Pre-2000 synthetics used ester-based components that could interact with older rubber seals. That problem was solved over 20 years ago. Modern high-mileage synthetics from Valvoline, Pennzoil, Castrol, and Mobil include additional seal conditioners, higher ZDDP content, and extra detergents engineered specifically for engines over 75,000 miles. Telling an older engine it cannot use synthetic oil is like telling a 60-year-old they cannot eat nutritious food. It needs better protection, not worse. But here is where it gets truly infuriating. That myth was at least based on something once partially true. The next one has never been true, not even once. Myth number 5, synthetic oil is just a marketing scam. This is the last refuge of the mechanic who cannot dispute the chemistry. It sounds like hard-won wisdom, but put it against independent lab data, not manufacturer claims, not advertising copy, but American Automobile Association testing. And it collapses instantly. Here is the thing. The AAA tested synthetic and conventional oils using standardized ASTM International benchmark protocols across 8 performance categories: shear stability, deposit formation, volatility, cold temperature pumpability, oxidation resistance, viscosity change under load, and wear protection. Synthetic outperformed conventional by 47% on average, not in one category, across all 8. And get this, Formula 1 engines, aviation turbines, military equipment, and industrial compressors universally specify synthetic lubrication. Nobody in a fighter jet maintenance bay is choosing oil based on a television commercial. They are choosing it because failure under load is not an option, and synthetic is the only chemistry that meets the threshold. Here is where it gets relevant to your daily commute. Modern turbocharged engines, including mainstream vehicles like the Honda Civic, Ford Escape, and Chevrolet Malibu, expose oil to turbocharger-bearing temperatures exceeding 400 degrees Fahrenheit at highway speeds. Conventional oil begins breaking down into varnish and sludge well below that point. Synthetic retains its protective properties up to 450 degrees. That is not marketing. That is a temperature reading. Bottom line, calling synthetic a marketing scam while your turbocharged engine is cooking at 450 degrees is like calling a fire extinguisher unnecessary while your kitchen burns. The chemistry does not care about your skepticism. Have you ever been told by a mechanic or service advisor that synthetic would damage your engine, or that it was just a corporate upsell? Drop it in the comments, as we want to know how widespread this misinformation actually is in your area. Myth number 6. Change your oil every 3,000 miles, no matter what. The most profitable myth in automotive service history. Born in the 1970s for engines with loose tolerances and inconsistent oil quality. Kept alive for one reason only. It generates billions of dollars in unnecessary service revenue for an industry that has never updated its script. Here is the thing. The U.S. quick lube market was valued at $7.5 billion in 2022 and is projected to reach $26.8 billion by 2030. That entire business model is structurally dependent on high-frequency visits. As synthetic adoption has grown and customers have started following manufacturer recommendations, the average interval between visits has already climbed to 6,200 miles, and the industry is watching its per-customer revenue shrink in real time. And get this, California's Bureau of Automotive Repair found that 78% of quick lube chains recommended services not due per the vehicle's maintenance schedule. Unnecessary oil changes topped the list. Most manufacturers specify 7,500 to 10,000 mile intervals for synthetic under normal conditions. BMW and Mercedes-Benz push 15,000 miles with factory oil quality sensors that track actual degradation, not calendar time. That data is sitting in your owner's manual right now. Service advisors are trained to ignore it because following the manufacturer's recommendation would eliminate roughly half their oil change revenue. The real kicker is the severe service schedule. Most owners' manuals include 2 intervals, normal and severe. Severe service covers short trips under 10 miles, stop-and-go traffic, extreme temperatures, and towing, which describes how most people actually drive. Under severe conditions with quality synthetic, you should be changing oil every 5,000 to 7,500 miles. That is still nearly double the 3,000-mile myth, and it still saves you 2 to 4 unnecessary oil changes every year. The 3,000-mile oil change is the automotive industry's version of selling bottled water next to a functioning tap. The tap works. The manufacturer confirmed it works. The only reason you are still buying the bottle is because someone with a financial stake told you not to trust it. Your engine runs on chemistry, film strength, and thermal stability, not on myths repeated by advisors working on commission. Synthetic oil outperforms conventional by 47% in independent testing. It produces half the wear metal in controlled teardowns. It flows in negative 40-degree cold starts, and it legitimately lasts 2 to 3 times longer between changes. Use the viscosity grade your owner's manual specifies. Buy quality synthetic with verified Group 4 base stocks. Follow the severe service schedule and ignore the 3,000-mile fairy tale. Hit subscribe if you want the truth about what is actually happening under your hood, because next week we are going after the tire industry, and what we found makes today look like a warm-up.